The year is 1891 and the movie starts off looking up at the full moon. A man is walking through a creepy-looking forest. Suddenly, a big creature is right in front of him. The creature attacks the man and claws at his face and chest. The man is covered in blood and runs off screaming. The creature finds the man and we hear him screaming as he is killed. In the next scene, we see Lawrence Talbot, acting on a stage. He is being watched by a woman in the crowd. The woman comes to talk to Lawrence after the play. She says her name is Gwen, she's engaged to his brother, Ben. She says Ben has been missing for nearly a month and 2 men were killed the night he disappeared. She asks for help from Lawrence, but he says he's too busy to help. Lawrence changes his mind, as we see him on a train in the next scene. He talks with an old man and the old man offers Lawrence his walking stick. It's beautiful and has a silver wolf as the handle. Lawrence looks at it carefully and reveals a small dagger inside the stick. Lawrence gives it back to the old man and wakes up later to see that the stick was left behind, so he takes it. Next, we see a horse-drawn carriage going through the countryside of Blackmore. It stops and Lawrence looks over at a huge house, more like a palace. Lawrence goes inside and soon after a big black dog barks at him. A man yells out to the dog. We find out this man is Sir John Talbot, Lawrence's father. They have an uncomfortable talk and Sir John reveals that Ben's body was found yesterday. He introduces Lawrence to his servant, Singh. Lawrence asks where his brother's body is and goes off to see it. Lawrence rides a horse into town, and we see that Ben's body is in a butcher shop. The butcher gives Lawrence Ben's belongings and Lawrence goes to look at the body. He is shocked to see his brother's body, which looks like it was torn apart. Later, in the pub, Lawrence listens to the local people talk about what happened. He finds a strange silver medal with Ben's things. A local man says it was a bear from the nomad camp that killed Ben and the others. Another man tells a story about a beast with big claws. It can only be killed with silver bullets and comes out on the full moon. Everyone laughs at him and one man jokes. That same man then talks about the Talbot family and insults Lawrence's mother. Lawrence walks over and throws a drink in the man's face. He's taken outside by the policeman whose name is Nye. Sometime after, Lawrence, Sir John, and Gwen are having dinner. They start to talk but it feels awkward so Gwen leaves. Later, Lawrence asks his father what kind of animal could have attacked Ben. Sir John says he's never seen anything like it but it could have only been done by a crazy man. Lawrence finds out that the strange metal is from people in the nomad camp so he wants to see them. Later on, Lawrence visits Gwen and says sorry. She wants to know what happened to Ben and Lawrence says he'll do everything he can to help. Next there's a flashback to Ben and Lawrence as children. At first they are happily playing, and then in the next scene, Lawrence goes out and finds his mother's killed sometime after we see the funeral for Ben. Lawrence and Gwen talk about Sir John. We find out that Lawrence was put in a mental hospital for 1 year and then sent off to America when he was young. Later, we see Gwen leaving for her family's house. Sir John tells Lawrence not to go out tonight, as it's a full moon. Lawrence doesn't listen and goes to the nomad camp. He talks with a woman named Mileva. Meanwhile, some people from town ride into the camp with guns. They've come for the bear. We see the bear looking around as a man screams and falls down. He's been attacked by something and everyone runs away screaming. We see people covered in blood. Policeman Nye is violently killed by the beast. Lawrence goes to help a boy that ran off. The boy is being chased by the beast. Lawrence is also attacked and is quickly taken to Mileva. Mileva stitches up Lawrence and says he's been cursed. He can only be released by someone who loves him. He is taken home and Gwen looks after him while he gets better. Looks like Gwen didn't actually leave. One day, Lawrence wakes up and they call for the doctor. The doctor is amazed at how well Lawrence has healed and says he'll be back in a week to check on him. Later, Lawrence talks to Singh and sees he has a box of silver bullets. Sometime later, an inspector comes to the house to see Lawrence. Lawrence walks in with the dog beside him, like his new best friend. The man says his name is Aberline. They go and talk. Aberline says he will send a specialist to look at Lawrence. They have a little argument and Lawrence asks the inspector to leave. Outside, Lawrence talks and flirts with Gwen. Suddenly, he says he hears horses. Next, we see lots of townspeople at his house on horses. They try to take Lawrence away and say he is cursed. Sir John shoots at them and says he'll kill them if they don't leave. They leave and Lawrence thanks his dad for saving him. Later that night, Lawrence tells Gwen she has to leave, and this time she does. In the next scene, the priest, Fisk, talks about God and beasts. Meanwhile the townspeople set a trap and we see people making silver bullets. Later, a woman tells Inspector Aberline that the Talbots are cursed. Lawrence follows his father underground through some dark tunnels and finds a strange room with a shrine to his mother. Sir John says he feels dead without his wife. Sir John locks himself behind some bars and his eyes glow as he walks away. Lawrence starts to change into a beast. He screams as he turns into a werewolf with sharp claws. We hear howling as people in town start to panic. The inspector rides off on a horse and we see the beast fall into the trap. A man also falls into the trap and is ripped apart. The werewolf jumps out of the trap and kills some of the men. There's some great shots of the werewolf as it chases down a man and kills him right away. The next day, Lawrence wakes up with his shirt ripped, covered in blood. Inspector Aberline and some men chase him and take him away. Later, we see Lawrence strapped to a chair in a mental hospital. He asks where his father is as he is lowered into an icy pool again and again. He is then electrocuted and tortured as we see a series of nightmares and flashbacks. Sometime later, Lawrence wakes up chained to a bed. Sir John is beside him. We find out that Sir John is also a werewolf and he killed Lawrence's mother. He says it's because of a disease. Singh has locked Sir John away every full moon for the last 25 years. Sir John heard that Ben was going to leave with Gwen. The father and son began to argue, then John transformed, escaped and killed Ben. Lawrence says he'll kill his father, and John leaves after that. In the next scene, Lawrence is wheeled into a room full of people. He is strapped to the wheelchair. The main doctor says he is crazy and has the same disease his father talked about. Inspector Aberline watches in the crowd. Lawrence says he'll kill everyone, and soon starts to scream as he changes into a werewolf. The scenes are great, the way he changes into a real beast. The people start to run and the werewolf finds the doctor and throws him out the window, killing him on a fence. Then the Wolfman escapes. Inspector Aberline chases after the werewolf as it runs along the rooftops on all four legs. The werewolf jumps down and starts attacking people. The inspector gets some police and they chase after the beast. They shoot at it but it doesn't work and the werewolf escapes. The next morning, we see that Lawrence has transformed back into a person. He's covered in blood again. Sometime after, Gwen walks into her shop and finds Lawrence hiding. He tells her that he is a monster because of this disease. Sir John killed Ben and his mother too. Gwen and Lawrence talk and he says he has a crush on her. Lawrence goes to leave but Gwen stops him and they kiss. Just then, Inspector Aberline knocks on the door. He comes in and asks Gwen if she's seen Lawrence. She says no and is taken outside. They don't find Lawrence anywhere. Next, we see Gwen is studying the disease that Lawrence has. She goes off and searches for Maleva. Inspector Aberline and his men are still searching for Lawrence and start to put silver bullets in their guns. Maleva finds Gwen and tells her there is no cure for Lawrence, but she hopes Gwen has the strength to do what she needs to do. The inspector and his men arrive in Blackmore and he tells them to split up and shoot Lawrence on sight. Lawrence arrives back at the Talbot house and finds Singh's body hanging in the hall. Meanwhile, the inspector follows Gwen. We see Lawrence load a gun with Singh's silver bullets. Lawrence finds his father, points the gun at him and shoots. Nothing happens. They start to fight, and Sir John hits Lawrence with the walking stick, knocking over a lamp and starting a fire. Lawrence pulls the dagger from the walking stick and tries to stab his father. Soon after, they transform and fight as we see the full moon outside. The fight scenes are pretty good, they growl and bite each other. The fight ends when Sir John is kicked into the fire and Lawrence howls in victory. Gwen runs into the burning house with the inspector following her. Lawrence attacks the inspector in the same way he was attacked at the nomad camp. Gwen takes the inspector's gun and runs off. Soon after, Lawrence chases after Gwen and the inspector takes the silver dagger and goes after them. Gwen runs through the woods while the house is destroyed by fire. The inspector's men turn up and join the chase. Lawrence catches up with Gwen and slowly walks towards her as she points the gun at him. She trips over and he falls on top of her. She tries to make him remember who she is. It looks like it's working, but then we hear dogs barking in the background. Lawrence turns and howls as Gwen picks up the gun. He goes to attack her but she shoots him. He falls off her and then grabs at her arm. He growls quietly as we see him slowly change back into a man. Lawrence says there was no other way. Gwen holds him and cries as he dies. Just then, the inspector and his men arrive. The camera zooms into the top of the dagger as the inspector looks up at the full moon. The movie ends with Gwen's voice saying, "There is no sin in killing a beast, only in killing a man." But where does one begin and the other end? Thank you for watching.